All right, so we are tapping in. Good evening, yours truly, Dr. Barry. Welcome to another episode of The Real Physician Reacts. This is our weekly Thursday night series where we go live. We touch on topics that come across my social media feed, and this was a good one. Now, obviously, I know some of my followers are like, man, like I don't like talking about COVID every week. And trust me, I don't like talking about COVID either because they get very mean in the comments, right? It don't really bother me, but it bothers people who read my comments. They get very mean, but that's okay, right? But like this one came in right on the heels of a discussion I had this week on our podcast show. Remember, if you catch this late, I will put this live episode on my YouTube channel and my podcast. Link in said bio for that. But this week's podcast was talking about reasons why the general public does not trust doctors. Just general reasons why the general public does not trust doctors. Shout out to everyone checking in. And a part of it was this aspect of, is it about the patient or is it about the dollar bill? So, of course, this article is flashing everywhere for the past couple of days, right? Pfizer to price the COVID drug Paxlovid at $13.90. Now, of course, obviously, I know that is headline reaching. I know that is written just to get someone to click because I already know how the game goes, unfortunately. So what typically happens, right? Again, and that's why I kind of titled this, is this kind of just, this business as usual, or should we have some extenuating circumstances, especially when it comes to a disease like this and the treatment that is needed? So typically what happens, you have whatever pharmaceutical company, of course, obviously, because it's the name Pfizer, it's going to generate a lot of clicks. And they're going to price a drug. Whatever they price a drug, they're going to price a drug, especially here in the United States. I see someone already pointed that out here in the United States, because that's what happens. We'll talk about that too. They'll price a drug and say, hey, I'm going to say this drug is worth this amount of money here. And what that does is that forces, one, all of the insurance companies and the federal government to be like, okay, I see what you're pricing the drug, but this is what I'm going to actually pay you. And it happens all the time. For those who get hospital bills, especially if you're insured, I want to stress that if you are insured, you get a hospital bill, they'll send a long bill and a whole bunch of money to your insurance company. And your insurance company is going to be like, nah, that's cool, but I'm going to actually pay you this much right here, right? Because is what it is, right? We'll touch on Thomas's comment in a second. So then what happens is they put this price on, hey, it's $13.90, right? And now for those who may not know what Paxlovid is a great oral treatment for those who are dealing with mild to moderate symptoms of COVID, but don't necessarily need to go to the hospital, right? And this has always been the goal, right? For those who catch the flu, we have a medication called Tamiflu, which is a 5-day oral course that says, hey, take this medication here to try to reduce the severity of it so you don't end up in the hospital. That's the goal. Don't end up in the hospital. Take this course here before it gets that bad. Same place here, right? Yeah, Paxlovid, it says, hey, you got COVID-like symptoms, you tested positive for COVID, take this oral medication here. Why? So you don't end up in the hospital, right? So I don't end up sending you to the hospital because the COVID becomes too severe, right? So that's what happens, right? So of course, if you're a drug company, right, that knows that, hey, one of my drugs in my supply is going to make me a lot of money, because to save a lot of money, these insurance companies and the federal government is going to say, hey, you know what? We need this drug available. We will pay you for said drug. So, of course, you gotta tax it at this price here, right? But whenever I see this price here, the first thing I think about is, man, okay, that's cool if I got Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and all these other things here, Humana, United, everyone's getting a shout out today, a free shout out for the insurance companies. That's cool if I got all these insurance companies and I'm able to get a cut. But what happens if I don't have insurance? Because that's the question, right? Now this $13.90 looks wild, right? Because you're like, whoa, $1,400 for a 5-day course of medication? Wow. So, of course, what Pfizer has already had to do, because you knew it was going to have to do it, is that they've already said, hey, we're going to have subsidies. We're going to have coupons. We're going to have all these things here. So it's not $1,400. It may be $200. It may be $250. Shout out. I see someone already hit a great comment. Good RX. I love Good RX. For those who may not know, insured or uninsured, whenever your doctor prescribes you a medication, GoodRx, they have an app, they have a website. You go look up that medication, say, hey, what is this going to cost me if I didn't have insurance? And guess what's going to happen? It's going to say, hey, you know what? At the grocery store, at CVS next to you is going to cost this much, but at the grocery store down the street, it may cost you a different price, right? So shout out to GoodRx, especially if you are underinsured or uninsured, to know, hey, what are some of these cash prices looking like so you can get an idea. So you have it in instance where Pfizer's already having to come out and say, hey, you know what? We are going to give coupons. We are going to give discounts. They're already saying, hey, it's not going to cost $1,400 if you have insurance. They're already telling you that. But they remember, they have to hit you with this price here, this $1,400, right? They have to hit you with this price here, because if they don't hit you with the $1,400, they already know these insurance companies are about to negotiate. They already know the negotiations about to go down. So if the negotiations are coming, like, I don't want to say a low price, right? I don't want to say $500 and then the federal government and all these insurance companies say, okay, we'll pay you $100. So I got to say this crazy price, $1,400 for a 5-day course. 5-day course. And I saw someone ask me in the comments, for my use, right? First, from a scientific standpoint, the studies shows good results, right? But for my use, I think that's more important. For the patients, because I take care of patients in the rehab center, long-term care center, who get COVID while they're there. Family brings them, employer brings it, whatever. And a lot of times, if we're able to catch it early, I'm able to start this medication. It's a 2-type medication. It's actually 2 different medications in one that they get over the course of 5 days, and it does well. Right. It does well decreasing the symptoms and the severity, because that's really the goal. Right. When we talk about the COVID vaccine, what is his job? Decrease the symptoms, decrease severity. When we talk about Paxlovid, what is his job? Decrease the symptoms, decrease the severity. So it does a very good job at that. And again, it's much cheaper, even though we say $1,400, much cheaper than going to the hospital, because the hospital is going to tax you much more than that $1,400. So like this here is, I'm reading the comments. Again, this is fresh off me talking about how people don't trust this healthcare system because they only think we're about the money. And someone pointed out earlier, they say, hey, you know what? That's the price that's going to be in the United States. And this is something that gets talked about, not as much as it should, but gets talked about a lot. Like, you may hear someone say, hey, I'm gonna get my medications from Canada. Like when Pfizer, when the erectile dysfunction, right, was an issue, right? When erectile is still an issue, right? When it was really a big issue, those medications were expensive as well, too. Cialis was expensive. Viagra was expensive. So guess what? You had a lot of patients who would go to Canada, not go to Canada, but they would go look at pharmacies from Canada and get their prescriptions sent to them from Canada, because and there's like rules and regulations of why they do it. And if you hear the pharmaceutical companies' explanation, they say, hey, you know what? It costs so much money to promote and do the research and everything for our medication, so we have to charge you this much, right? But why is this wild, right? Why is this wild? For a few different reasons. For those who may not know, especially when the pandemic was pandemicking, the federal government and AKA a lot of our tax dollars help fund a lot of the research. Right. Y'all remember when the Orange Man was in charge in the office, right? Like Operation Warp Speed, right? That helped fund a lot of the research that gave us vaccines, that gave us these treatment medications here. So it's not like they were coming out of their pocket to fund the research and everything else. But still, they tell you that, oh, it's the research and all of that cost. And that's why I have to charge you $1,400 for this medication if you don't have insurance and you can't get any of the subsidies or coupons, right? Like, that is really the crux of it all, right? So again, you have another instance where you're going to have the general public. And again, if you just look at my comments, you're going to have the general public say, hey, see, you know what? I knew they were only about the money. I knew they didn't care about us. I knew they didn't care about the patients. Like, we're just here. We're just the guinea pigs, and we're just forced to have to take spend all of our money to try to live longer, right? And of course, that's where the problems arise, right? That's where the issues occur from that standpoint here, right? So let's hit some comments. Let's hit some comments, right? Because we did our thing. Let's hit some comments. I'm seeing my those who are against the vaccine folks are already checking in. They checking. I don't know if y'all follow me or just whenever I go live, they know how to catch me. Thomas says, I'm never taking a COVID shot again. My second one put me in a hospital for 3 days. Oh, sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that, Thomas. Let's see here. Someone says, all the more reason not to get the shot. Now, see, this is kind of counterintuitive. So let's teach, and for those, especially if this is your first time catching me live, what we like to do is, yes, we see a lot of the anti-vaxxer related comments, but a lot of times, we try to say, you know what, maybe there's an educational lesson that we can squeeze in there, right? So RJ says, all the more reason not to get the shot. Right now, we are talking about the COVID drug Paxlovid that you get when you get COVID. And then you get symptoms from COVID, so much so not that like I need to go to the hospital, but enough that I'm really feeling bad that I need to call the doctor. Now, RJ says this is another reason not to get the shot. But unfortunately, if you think about it intuitively, let's just think about it. If you got the vaccine shot, that's the shot he's referring to, it would decrease your chance of actually getting COVID, right? So you would think if the price of getting the treatment is something that's expensive to you, you would probably say, you know what, how can I avoid getting that disease, right? Again, but I just here, like I said, we are here to educate and learn at the same time, right? Because no question, no statement, in my eyes, is a dumb statement. There's always an educational lesson surrounded it, right? So shout out to RJ. But again, RJ, I just want you to think about it backwards, right? Like Paxlovid is if you get the disease. So you would want to do things that likely decrease your chance of getting said disease, so you never have to worry about this $1,400 price tag. And one of those things that does that is the COVID vaccine. So shout out to, which again, we know Pfizer makes from that standpoint here. Yes, unfortunately, yes, people still are playing with the pandemic. Let me see here. Someone said, again, we have a lot of people who are, again, kind of thinking about it backwards, right? They think that, and again, mind you, we are, like I said, I want to make sure this is clear, right? Because it may not be clear to a couple people. We are talking about a drug that is used to treat COVID when you get COVID and you get symptomatic from it, right? So if your first thought is, hey, avoid the vaccine, right? Then what you're saying is, I want to run into this medication here. That's what you're saying. I don't know if you realize that's what you're saying, but from my position, I just want to make sure you're educated on that part for sure. Someone says, I sound vaccinated. I don't know how you can sound vaccinated, but I am vaccinated and boosted up the way. Someone said, I'll take ivermectin, cure me both times. I had it in 2 days. So we have, again, one of the drugs, right? One of the drugs, ivermectin, right? This was a very famous drug that was for our anti-vaxxer side, right? Because again, for some reason, right? Again, like I said, I don't think anyone could have anticipated backlash against a vaccine, right? I don't think anyone could have anticipated backlash against a treatment. But you had a lot of people who are running to this drug ivermectin, which we have studies on top of studies on top of studies that show no difference. You could have took sugar pills at the same time you're taking an ivermectin and likely had the same result, right? So we got plenty of studies and evidence showing that. But there are a lot of people who swore that, no, I only need ivermectin. Now, unfortunately, we did have some colleagues who are on the other side, right? Because there's some physician colleagues who are on the other side of the COVID vaccine, right? But a lot of them had a lot of financial gain surrounded by it, right? There's like the freedom doctors, right? Those who may not know, the freedom doctors made a killing. I mean, a killing off y'all, like people who were in my comments who were like against the vaccine. Because all they had to tell you was, hey, you know what? Vaccine bad. Come buy my supplement. That's all they had to tell you. And you guys ran over there like droves, like high top and sped over there like droves just to get their supplements and make them rich because they knew that they can play on you guys' energy towards the vaccine. So they said, oh, you know what? I can use this person's energy and make money. I tell people all the time. I tell my colleagues all the time. If tomorrow I started saying, you know what? the vaccine is terrible. Get that vaccine out of here. It did this, and that. Like, I can double my followers immediately. I know for 100% fact. And then I just turn around and sell y'all like a supplement that has my face on it, right? And say, hey, get down with the vaccine. Get this, daily supplement that you got to pay $100 a month for. You guys will eat it up, right? Like, it's because, again, like, y'all run away from it just because, quote unquote big pharma said it, right? But again, shout out to our team ivermectin, because y'all are keeping them busy. Because mind you, for those who may not know, ivermectin is made by another pharmaceutical company called Merck. And if you just go look up what Merck said about ivermectin, like, again, don't you don't have to listen to me. I always tell people, you may just assume that I'm on this live here faking being a doctor. Like, because I want people to run with that. Let's think of a scenario that I may be faking this doctor stuff, right? And I'm just trying to promote Pfizer and Moderna and Novartis and all these other pharmaceutical companies. Like this, let's go with that wild scenario. I always want you to fact check what I say. So I want you guys, especially the team ivermectin, to go and see, hey, what did the company who would make money off you guys continuously using ivermectin say about ivermectin in regards to COVID? And some of you may be disappointed, but a lot of you may not, because I doubt a lot of you people will actually go and check it out. But they said it didn't work, for those who may not know. Let's see here. Someone says Dr. Fauci knew of gain of function. I'm not sure what gain of function is. And I'm not sure if that's in ref, because there's a lot of people who thought that if you take the vaccine, something would like happen inside you, like, some, like, remember there was like a thing on TikTok, I think it was a few weeks ago, where there was some certain date that was going to happen, and then a light beam was going to happen, and everyone who was vaccinated were going to mutate in some way, shape, or form. But unfortunately, it did not happen for those guys here. Someone said Mr. Pfizer is added again. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm Mr. Pfizer. I thought that was Travis Kelce's name. Someone said, and this is an important one, right? Shout out to this guy right here. Says we paid for it and pharma got richer off the vaccine. 100%. That is the business as usual. That is unfortunate when it comes to healthcare. That a lot of times we are responsible for, like, we as in taxpayers are responsible for the research that goes into these companies developing a new medication, whether it be for erectile dysfunction, diabetes, weight loss, cholesterol, COVID. We're responsible for that research. And unfortunately, once all of their research is done, they turn around and they make billions off of it. Billions would be. In fact, let me see what Pfizer said they're going to make this year. So their estimates went down to about $53 to $60 billion a year off COVID related things. A year, 50 billion. Like, they're going to make off COVID related vaccines, Paxlovid, and everything else. So that's always the unfortunate, and obviously I'm on team healthcare, right? So I'm on the side where, like, I see it happening, and it's unfortunate, but like the way the system works is really nothing for us to do, because this is just how the system goes. And I've seen some of the, political, House of Representatives, Senate folks try to come up with rules and ways to try to regulate that. But unfortunately, Pfizer's and Moderna's and Novartis, those teams, they got a lot of money to lobby as well, too. So they pay money. Again, obviously, this is not a political channel, but they pay some money to, grease the pockets of our elected officials. And unfortunately, those rules still continue to fly. So, yeah, that's extremely unfortunate, because that's an extremely unfortunate point when you talk about business as usual, for sure. Let's see here. This is a good question, right? So Keith says, I had to take Paxlovid back in January and it was nowhere near that price. That's ridiculous. Yes. So these prices are starting in the year 2024. In the year 2024. And the reason why these prices weren't these prices now is because the federal government is still subsidizing Pfizer, aka the federal government, aka your taxes are still subsidizing Pfizer and these other companies. So it doesn't cost as much to put it out. But once 2024 hits, and I think 2025 is there, like somewhere mid 2024 to 2025 is when it's officially going to be on Pfizer to like, hey, we're not giving you money for this medication no more. You got to do it yourself. So that's when you're going to see the prices really go up. Now, again, if you're insured, they're telling you, yes, if you're insured, obviously you're not going to pay the $1,400 price, but you may not pay the price you paid, in January, right? Like they're letting you know that is going down. And this is something we've always feared. Once the emergency authorizations, the emergency response from a national perspective was dropped for COVID and COVID related things, that once it was up to the pharmaceutical companies to start having to put their own money into the pot, they were going to tax us. Like this is what we kind of talked about. So that's why I was telling people, hey, if you can, get some tests, get your test, get vaccinated, because do it while it's free. Do it while it's free, because when it's not free, they're going to tax you, right? And that's unfortunately kind of where we're at in that standpoint here. Let's see. I would love. Someone says studies have shown that people have taken ivermectin have a lower cancer risk. Like, so the question, right? When a statement like that pops up, right? You have to ask yourself, again, this is just critical thinking. You have to ask yourself, okay, what is it about ivermectin that would cause me to have a lower cancer risk? And then, of course, any person with critical thinking is going to say, which cancer? Like, is it skin cancer? Is it breast cancer? Is it lung? Is it colon? Which cancer would somehow ivermectin play a role that would then decrease me from getting said cancer? And then what is the function of it, right? And when you know the function of ivermectin and how it works, the likelihood that it could play a role in reducing cancer risk seems like a stretch, like a super, super, super stretch from that standpoint there. But again, that's something that I would suggest you post the studies and let us know from that standpoint there. Someone said ivermectin, a Nobel Prize winning drug. Yes, that's definitely correct. So yes, ivermectin definitely, the people who made ivermectin definitely won a Nobel Prize. But you also know what else won a Nobel Prize, right? You know which two scientists are, just got, awarded with the Nobel Prize? Those who made mRNA vaccines. And you may be saying, all right, Dr. Barry, what's so special about mRNA vaccines? That is the backbone of what Pfizer and Moderna have made their COVID vaccines. So the people who helped produce a technology to help give us the COVID vaccine, which saved millions of lives, are also Nobel Prize winners. So shout out to all our Nobel Prize winning drugs and technologies. Shout out to mRNA vaccines. Shout out to those two. I forget their two scientists. I made a video on them a while ago. Shout out to them. I hadn't made a video on them because there was another anti-vaxxer who was making claims that he developed. I forget. I think Robert Malone. In fact, I now remember. Robert Malone was making fake claims that he developed mRNA technology, but we watched that. We got those lies out of there pretty quickly because, again, when they lie well. But yeah, shout out to those two scientists and shout out to ivermectin for winning the Nobel Prize as well. Let's see here. Let's see. You're a doctor, you know what gains of function too? No, I definitely don't. From that standpoint here, the government will literally do anything before regulating big pharma. Yeah, it's a lot of money. There's a lot of money associated with big pharma, right? So you can't regulate someone who pays you to regulate them. Ivermectin 100% worked. No, it didn't. No, it did not. Let's see here. Yeah, someone said my girl just took it a week ago and it was only $6 for insurance. Yeah, right now it's cheap. We have until mid 2024, 25 before it's going to cost us a lot of money for sure. Let's see here. Someone says, Disney Lover says, I have COVID currently. It's trying to take me out. Second time. This is day 3. Yeah, all our wishes are for you for a safe and quick recovery. And hopefully, none of your other family members are sick as well. Because like I said, COVID is still here. COVID is still putting people in the hospital. A lot of people are getting and mind you, this isn't a drug that people aren't getting. A lot of people are getting Paxlovid right now, right? Because it was the stopgap for stopping it. For some time, especially when we think about why are there less hospitalizations? Why are there less deaths? from COVID now versus 2020, it's medications like Paxlovid, it's the vaccines, right? It's the social distancing, it's the masking, like it's that whole combination of things that have added to the decrease in the end result, right? Because the end result is, how can I prevent you from coming to the hospital and dying? Like, how can I do those things there? And thankfully for Pfizer, Moderna, Novartis, Johnson & Johnson, when Johnson & Johnson was still doing this thing, thankfully for that, we've had a lot of stop gaps that have been able to really slow that down so that people can go out and not wear their mask and not social distance and have no more talks of lockdown, even though I see that conspiracy theory always pop up every few months. We're not locking down no time. We're never locking down again from COVID because we got medications like this here to stop that for sure. Let's see here. Shout out to Jenny says, I got my booster and my flu shot. Yeah. So, and for those who may not know, you are able to get, because that's how I typically get it, you are able to get your COVID booster and your flu shot on the same date. All right. So shout out to them. Let's see here. Remdesivir is more than twice. Oh, yeah. And for those who may know, remdesivir is a medication that we prescribe patients because it's IV version. We give it to patients who, again, get hospitalized and they need, because they have moderate to severe COVID-related symptoms. Boom, you're on remdesivir, especially if their oxygen levels are low for treatment course. Now, of course, there's some issues if you have kidney dysfunction, but it's neither here or there. But yeah, there's a lot more expensive medications. That's the thing. Like I said, you see the $1,300, $1,400 medication. There's a lot more expensive medications to treat COVID. This is like the stopgap to say, hey, you know what? Let me give you this medication here so you're not spending an arm and a leg, when you get to the hospital. Let me see. Dr. Malone did not discover mRNA technology. Mr. Tony D. I think I remember. I don't know if I remember you from last week, Mr. Tony D, but yeah, he didn't. He definitely did not discover it, right? And it was so sad, right? It was so sad for him to try to claim it, especially for something that can easily be refuted. Right. And that was something that we used to see a lot, especially during, early pandemic, when, anti-vaxxers or those who just, were anti-science or just anti-sense, would just make these like loud and ridiculous claims that force, people like me and other content creators to have to make a video to say, all right, guys, this guy is not responsible for mRNA technology, right? Because again, if he made mRNA technology, his name would be a part of the two people who won the Nobel Peace Prize, right? But guess what? His name is nowhere to be found, as it should not be nowhere to be found, because he had nothing to do. Nothing to do. And I know that Nobel Peace Prize announcement probably hurt him more than anything, because he was going around telling y'all lies about like how he made mRNA technology, and mind you, he's vaccinated too, right? For those who may not know. Vaccinated, but told lies about him making mRNA technology, and he got called out for it ruthlessly for that regards. Let's see. Someone said, "Do I believe it works?" Yes. It's obvious. The numbers say it works. Shout out to the people who are never vaccinated, right? Like, congratulations, right? And that's the thing, right? I think a lot of times, especially for my anti-vaxxers, right? Like, y'all are not saying like a curse word when you say you weren't vaccinated. That don't affect me for the most part. It may affect someone around your family member, especially when y'all get sick and y'all pass it around. That don't really affect those who got vaccinated, those who were safe to do so. And it's not a slight. They just say, hey, all right. Because we recognize that not 100% of the population was ever going to get vaccinated. That was never going to be the case. In fact, there's not a medication, a vaccine, a treatment that 100% of people get. Even if I'm talking about pancreatic cancer, and we know that pancreatic cancer needs this drug and this drug, 100% of people with pancreatic cancer don't get those medications here because they say, you know what, I want to try something different. So we already know that there's going to be people on the outside saying, hey, I'm not getting that medication here. That ain't happening. No way, get that away from me. So again, shout out to those who are not vax. Because I think y'all, I think let me give my anti-vaxxers some love, right? One, right? I love calling y'all anti-vaxxers, right? Because I know y'all are gonna be like, especially I see y'all in my comments. Oh, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm just anti-COVID vaccine. We don't know where it came from. We don't know how it got here so fast. And it's really, again, if you knew how vaccines work, you would know exactly how. In fact, I have a YouTube video on it. I don't remember which episode I forget which episode I did because it was a while ago. But I have a YouTube episode that gives a chronological time of why the vaccine came out fast, right? But again, and mind you, again, the former president, the Origin guy, had a whole Operation Warp Speed, right? So the problem is, right, because he called it Warp Speed, a lot of y'all were like, oh, no, they have to be skipping steps. And no step was skipped. A lot of the administrative paperwork that typically slows down vaccine production, like, got sped up, right? AKA Operation Warp Speed. Right, so shout out to Orange Man Donald Trump, Mr. Indicted guy, for helping get the vaccine out to billions across the world, because he was a big part of that, if you did not know. Let's see here. Let's make sure we don't got any questions. Let's see. Yeah, they definitely make some money. Let's see here. Someone's asking about mRNA vaccines. Oh, this is good. I mean, this is a good question, right? I'm not sure where they're trying to go to, but like, as far as what other mRNA vaccines. Now, for those who don't know, especially mRNA is a very new technology in the production of vaccine administration. And some of the diseases, right? Some of the diseases that they are working on to try to say, hey, you know what? I wonder if mRNA technology can help us with this, is going to be scary for a lot of people. So, of course, there's a lot of viral-related diseases, hepatitis, HIV, right? Like, there's going to be a time where we're talking about an HIV vaccine, right? Now, I already know, like, and half of y'all are probably in my comment section. If y'all were scared to get a COVID vaccine, and now they're telling you about an HIV vaccine, right? So we already know that y'all are probably going to be on that side, right? We're okay with that. We understand the numbers, but the route of this technology here is going to do such a great job at helping treat diseases at a rate that we had no clue we would be able to treat, especially from a successful related standpoint. Like, I'm excited. And of course, there's always going to be, like, for example, people, if, let's say, because a lot of times, especially with my anti-vaxxers, right, they were hung up on the mRNA vaccine being the issue. And I say, oh, well, Johnson & Johnson is an mRNA vaccine. Why don't you take that? And then they would come up with a different excuse why they didn't want the COVID vaccine, right? So there's always going to be secondary options to diseases when it comes to vaccines that you can take that does not equate to mRNA technology. But again, if I had a choice, to say, you know, do I take mRNA technology, which is clearly superior, or do I take something that isn't, not to say it's bad, but just isn't as great, isn't as effective as mRNA technology, we're going to have options for those people as well in regards to that from the standpoint here. So let's see here. Make sure I want to make sure we get at least all the good credible questions from that standpoint. Let's see. Make sure we. Yes, I am an osteopathic physician. Someone asked if I was a DO versus MD. MDs are allopathic folks, and DOs are osteopathic folks. So shout out to them. I don't see any obvious questions right now, which is good, right? So like I said, today isn't going to be a very long live. It was just more of a matter of getting it out there, because, like I said, I see this article being promoted, and I already know I saw the highlights, right? And I already know that there's gonna be people like, oh my God, I cannot believe they would charge $1,400. But understanding that, unfortunately, even though, in the pandemic, towards the pandemic, middle of the pandemic, in the pandemic, wherever stage you think the pandemic is, business is going to run as usual. And this is just another example of business running as usual in the pharmaceutical industry, right? And again, we're going to have a drug that everyone's going to need one way, shape, or form. And unfortunately, someone's going to make a lot of money of it. And right now it's going to be Pfizer, right? So y'all be blessed. Right. Shout out to my anti-vaxxers who check in. We love y'all. Shout out to those who ain't anti-vaxxers and giving kudos. Make sure you like, follow. Again, this episode will be on our YouTube page tomorrow. We'll be on the podcast tomorrow morning-ish as well. But y'all be blessed. Y'all have a good night. stay safe. Anti-vaxxers, stay safe. Those who got vaccinated, stay safe. Those who can't get vaccinated because you got allergies, stay safe because COVID is real.